Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Today in True Crime and Portraits podcast. I'm your host, Jane Flowers. Here is a little bit about me if you don't know who I am. I'm an author, blogger, and a writer originally from Greenwood, Mississippi. My most recent publication is called The True Legacy of Dr. Tom Boring, an unsolved murder mystery biography. I wrote my most recent publication to help preserve my father's legacy, an unsolved murder that has been fabricated and slandered for someone else's benefit and gain. If you don't know who my father is, then let me please introduce you to him. He is U.S. Navy veteran dentist, Dr. Tom Boring, and he is originally from Greenwood, Mississippi. Today, I am introducing my podcast to you and filling you in on what I will be talking about on all future episodes. On some future episodes, I will be talking about true crime stories, about my mother's name that is involved with identity theft within a breach of fiduciary I have with my trust fund in Greenwood, Mississippi. And I will be talking about an organized criminal enterprise run by white-collar attorneys that were helping her embezzle from my trust that are running the judicial system in Greenwood, Mississippi. On these future true crime episodes, I will speak about the embezzlement case she is involved in when she used another person's Social Security number with Trustmark Bank and attorney Floyd Melton Jr. in Greenwood, Mississippi, to embezzle millions of dollars in World War II Series E bonds from my trust fund. Get your tissues out because you're going to need them for these podcast episodes. On other future episodes, I will be talking about my father's life and unsolved murder that has been fabricated and slandered for someone else's benefit and gain. His unsolved murder true crime story has been spoken about in numerous magazines, at portrait exhibitions held all over the world, at portrait galleries all over the world, in art schools that teach the story of how he was murdered, alongside photos that were taken of him by his friend, Photographer William Eggleston, in films and in documentaries. Dr. Tom Boring was good friends with photographer William Eggleston up until his murder. After Tom's murder, William started making millions of dollars fabricating his life and unsolved murder, along with photos and film taken of him and his home in Greenwood, Mississippi. I reached out to William by mail, asking him in a letter mailed to his home address in Memphis, Tennessee, if he would please speak to me about my father's unsolved murder. I never heard anything back from William, and this was over a year ago when I sent him the letter that he received and signed for. I have never met William Eggleston in person, and I don't believe he wants to talk to me because he's gone to great lengths to fabricate and slander my father's life and unsolved murder for his benefit and gain. Therefore, I don't think he's going to enjoy having to come clean on his lies that he likes to live by and make millions on regarding my father. I and my family are also victims when it comes to dealing with my father's life and unsolved murder that has been fabricated and slandered throughout the many years. Being that said, I published my father's biography in hopes to get the truth out about how he lived his life and how he was really murdered while preserving his legacy. These lies said about my father's life and unsolved murder cause a negative effect on me and my family. and it only fuels the extension of our sorrow and agony we have continuously felt over the many years. My father's death certificate states he died of smoke inhalation in his home that was set on fire by some unknown assailant on May 10, 1980. His home was once located at 103 Virginia Street in Greenwood, Mississippi, but William Eggleston begs to differ in his films and portrait exhibitions as to how and where my father was murdered. William Eggleston claims my father died from an axe hitting him in his head and thereby it killing him. William has never mentioned anything about smoke inhalation killing my father. As well, William claims that Tom died where photos of him and his home were taken by William Eggleston. These photos were taken before 1971 at 508 MacArthur Street in Greenwood, Mississippi. William claims the photos of Tom's home at 508 MacArthur Street were in actuality taken at 103 Virginia Street, where my father was murdered. I speak about these false claims and so much more in my father's biography, The True Legacy of Dr. Tom Boring. In future episodes, I will speak about the chapters and the 45 newspaper articles that I put in his biography that detail his life and unsolved murder. As well, I will be speaking about his service as a dentist in the United States Navy. I will also be speaking about the films by William Eggleston that my father, my mother, and I have parts in, like Stranded in Canton, Imagine the Colorful Mr. Eggleston, and a short film by Philippe Proger with the National Portrait Gallery in London, where they made a horrific false claim about Tom's unsolved murder. There are 9 fine art photographs that William Eggleston took of my father in the early 1970s that I will be speaking about in future episodes. The 9 fine art photographs are called Untitled, T.C. Boring, Greenwood, Mississippi, early 1970s. Untitled, Greenwood, Mississippi, 1973, and formerly known as The Red Ceiling, The Red Room, The Blue Ceiling. Untitled, T.C. Boring, 1972, Greenwood, Mississippi. Untitled, Naked T.C. on a Couch, Greenwood, Mississippi, 1972. Untitled, The Photographer with T.C. Boring, Greenwood, Mississippi, Polaroid photo that comes from the collection of the cousin of William Eggleston, Maud Schuler Clay. All of these 9 fine art photographs are well known all over the world by collectors of William Eggleston's work and by students who study his photography. You can see and learn the true origins about these photographs in my father's biography. Also, on future episodes, I will speak about magazine articles that slander and fabricate my father's unsolved murder for William Eggleston's gain. My father never deserved to have his life and unsolved murder fabricated for someone else's benefit and gain. Tom served 23 years in the United States Navy as a dentist, and when he retired from the Navy, his rank was that of a lieutenant commander. I have the uttermost respect for my father, and should most people have respect for our veterans. Our veterans put their lives on the line and serve our country so that we may have our freedom. Here's a perfect example of how Tom's life was slandered with his military career is the fact that magazines and YouTubers spread lies about how he served in the Korean War. Tom never went and served in the Korean War, but he did join the United States Navy in 1949 during the time of the Korean War. Many people, along with photographer William Eggleston, are telling and selling fabricated stories about Tom serving in the Korean War. William Eggleston was the one that originally made up this false claim, and you will learn about how it is false in future episodes to come. There is an art school in Brooklyn, New York, that teaches their students that Dr. Tom Boring's home was a brothel. There are 2 teachers at this school that I'm going to speak about that make false claims about Tom's home in a YouTube video, and they teach their students online that my father's home was a brothel. In this future episode, you will learn about the lies these teachers teach with the photo untitled Greenwood, Mississippi, 1973, and formerly known as The Red Ceiling by William Eggleston. They teach that this photo was taken in a brothel. This is one episode I'm looking forward to speaking about because my father's home was never a brothel, and legally, by law, these teachers don't have any proof his home was a brothel to be making such a evil, horrific, false claim. I did extensive research into this claim they made, and I was not able to find any proof whatsoever that his home was ever a brothel. I will also have on select episodes guests that were friends with my father, and they will tell you, just as I'm telling you, that his home was never a brothel. These people knew my father and are great references when it comes to someone who can vouch for me and my claims dealing with his life and unsolved murder. If you would like to be a guest on my show, then please reach out to me by email and let's set up the podcast. I would really enjoy speaking with you about topics like true crime stories and portrait photography. As you can see, there are many interesting episodes that I will be speaking about in the future on my podcast today in true crime and portraits. Please stay tuned for future episodes I will be dropping daily. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and leave a comment. Until then, I'll see you next episode. Goodbye, everyone.